I'm Dennis Anderson along with Julie Zenner, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Mayor Don Ness has proposed what some are calling a game-changing plan for Duluth's Canal Park Bayfront area. Tonight we'll find out more about the proposal and what the next steps may be.
Well, if you need medical care but don't have health insurance, where do you go? With 4 locations on the Iron Range, Project Care is helping to fill that gap with its free clinics.
And we'll have the week's business news and a news file story from 25 years ago.
These stories and a lot more coming up next on Almanac North. Hello again and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. And Julie, good to be back after a week off during the WDSC membership drive.
Yes, an important time of year around here, and thanks to all of you who called during that. But here we are again. We're back.
That's for sure. All right, we've got some great topics tonight, so let's get started.
All right, thank you, Denny, and welcome everyone. A faltering blue pedestrian bridge in Duluth's Canal Park waterfront area has frustrated tourists and business owners over the years. Often broken, the bridge can lead to long hikes and even trapped charter boats at times. Well, last week, Duluth's mayor unveiled a proposal that would dramatically change the bayfront in the Canal Park district. And while many questions remain, the proposal has sparked plenty of comments and questions. Well, joining us to talk about the proposal is Don Ness, the mayor of Duluth, and Scott Miller is the secretary of the Canal Park Business Association. And thanks to both of you for being here tonight. We'll be easy on you tonight, Mayor. I understand you're a little under the weather, but your proposal makes some radical changes. And it includes filling in the Minnesota slip. Why start this conversation right now?
Well, like many of the initiatives that we've had to deal with in recent years, it starts with a big problem. And we have a couple of very significant problems, 3 to be exact. One is the Blue Bridge, which, as was mentioned, breaks down on a regular basis, is not reliable, and creates a huge barrier between the 2 activity centers in that area, the Convention Center and Canal Park. The second is we have failing seawalls, and that are actually failing to the point now that it's the wave action is pulling the soils out into the slip and creating sinkholes in the grassy area and near the sidewalks that have had temporary, very expensive temporary fixes. The permanent fix for that is over $3 million. Then we have contamination in that Minnesota slip that, based on a 2004 study by the MPCA, would cost between $5 and $7 million to clean. We can solve all 3 of those problems with filling the slip, capping the contamination for between $1.5 million and $2 million.
So Scott, what does the Canal Park Business Association think about all this discussion?
Actually, we're very supportive of it. As the mayor mentioned, the biggest concern has been, and you touched on it at the beginning, is just the reliability of the slip bridge. We need a real good connectivity between Canal Park, the deck, and Bayfront. And right now, for example, even this week, the bridge is up.
When that's not functioning, literally you're cut off.
Exactly.
Pedestrians are cut off.
Yes, because basically then you have to go all the way down to the Red Lobster and then backtrack over to get on the lake side of the deck.
We do have a graphic that kind of shows what this vision is that you have in mind. Sure. And of course, people have to remember that this is kind of a starting point for conversation. Yes. But if we could get the graphic up, maybe you could walk us through what people are seeing in there.
Sure. Well, down in the I don't know, Greg, if you're gonna, down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see the marina. From the ship canal around, now at the lower half of your screen, there'll be a new boat basin created that'll have about between 120 and 150 new slips. Currently in Minnesota slip, there are 50 spots used by charter fishermen and other boat owners. So we'll be able to meet that demand. plus additional opportunities for folks to park their boats and the transient boat docking. So there's great benefit there. That's also will be a potential revenue source to help. Then you'll see above the dark brown areas are new private development opportunities that will increase the tax base and also create a revenue source to help pay for it. Behind that, where the Irvin currently is, right now we indicate that as surface parking. It would create a net of 275 additional parking spaces. And we all know that parking in Canal Park is at a premium. The biggest problem is that folks spend a great deal of time traveling around Park Point looking for that parking spot, adding to the congestion of Park Point. With this plan, folks will be able to come off Railroad Street, park either at the deck or in this new parking area, and walk directly into Canal Park, never having to bring their car into Canal Park.
Mayor, who owns the slip?
It's there's dual ownership. The east side of the slip is owned by the Meyerhoff family, and the west side of the slip is owned by the city of Duluth.
Have you approached the Meyerhoffs?
Yes, we've had several conversations, kind of initial conversations, saying, you know, here's the plans, and we'll be having more in-depth conversations in the weeks and months to come. Clearly, this plan doesn't go forward unless it works well for the Meyerhoffs.
Scott, talk about the parking situation down there and how this could, you know, perhaps alleviate some of the challenges that you faced.
Yeah, obviously we've, going back even to the 1984 study, the initial waterfront development plan, it called for a 300 spot parking ramp. And again, that's in 1984. So if you look at all the development that has happened down there, there definitely is a need. We're seeing a lot of it even in the buildings, for example, in the DeWitt Sites building. They're now up to the 7th or 8th floor that they've developed. And so they need parking, because that's the first thing when the tenants come in is, okay, we need some reserved parking. And that's what we really see as far as with it being centrally located. It's going to kind of help everybody from the north end to the south end to people in the middle, so that if, say, in the Meyerhoff building, they need to develop their upper floors, or you look at possibly even the Grandma's folks have talked about that they would convert that warehouse that's right next to Famous Dave's into some type of either housing development or possibly business retail.
Is there any concern or even discussion about concern right now that the William Irvin would be too far down the road and maybe out of sight?
No, to be honest, no. I think with the idea of putting it over at Bayfront is an excellent idea. You know, before we've even talked about issues when it came up about putting a skywalk across, and of course the Irvin was in the way, so there was never any opposition to moving it. And like I said, just the fact of filling in that slip, getting those extra spots, and just the economic development that's going to come from that is going to be enormous.
Mayor, some people have raised some concerns just about the historic value of Minnesota Slip. Does it concern you at all that we would be losing that piece of history by filling it in, and there really wouldn't be an opportunity to ever go back and get it?
Yeah, I understand that concern, and you know, all things being equal, if we didn't have these problems, that the Blue Bridge functioned perfectly, if we didn't have failing seawalls or the contamination in the slip, I would agree with them. But the fact of the matter is, we have many millions of dollars of problems in this area, and the parking issue all can be resolved at a fraction of the cost. And we have a lot of waterfront in the city of Duluth. We also have additional existing slips that will be used for commercial activity down near the new Pier B development where the Irvin would be moved. So I think we retain enough of that, but the added advantages for pedestrian movement along that red corridor there from the lake walk in front of the deck and then all the way down to Bayfront and the aquarium and the Pier B development, I think, you know, when you look at the whole thing and you weigh out the advantages and disadvantages, I think this comes out ahead.
Mayor, you have said it's a big change, it's a big vision. How long do you anticipate this to take? When would you maybe expect this to be in the bag and all done?
Well, I'm an impatient sort, so you know, I do hope that we can engage the public in a discussion in the fall, in this winter, and see if we can build consensus around elements of this, and knowing that the final plan won't look exactly like this. But I hope that we can move forward at least with some of the elements sooner than later. Probably the first element that would need to be done is the boat basin. And because once you've established the boat basin, then all the activity that's currently in the slip could be moved there, and we could pin the bridge down. We wouldn't have to have that bridge action and save ourselves a lot of headaches. And then probably over the course of the following 3 or 4 or 5 years, take the additional steps.
Scott, do you sense that the charter boat captains are starting to come around? It seemed like there was a little initial shock when this proposal was unveiled because they hadn't really been part of the conversation up to that point.
Yeah, and I think the big difference, as the mayor touched on, is the fact I think they're more concerned about being away from Canal Park and being, you know, not have a place to go or be way over on Bayfront.
Yeah.
But I think now they're basically just moving them right down behind the sports garden. It actually probably would give them more visibility. You know.
What happens if nothing is done?
Well, that's not an option actually, because we do have these. The seawall is
We
failing.
need the repair work.
And the sinkholes are happening. The Blue Bridge is becoming less and less reliable. We just had a letter from the previous designer saying it's not functioning properly and poses a safety risk for our users. So something dramatic needs to happen, and you know, hopefully we can move this, jumpstart this conversation, and find consensus behind one plan.
Any early estimates on how much this vision might cost to accomplish and where perhaps the money could come from?
Yeah, it really would be a fraction of the cost. The initial cost that we're looking for the creation of the new boat basin is somewhere in the $500,000 to $1 million range. Filling in the slip, which we believe that we could get funds from the MPCA and EPA, would be that $1.5 million to $2 million. And then the pedestrian plaza way, you know, would probably be somewhere in the 1 to 2 million. We get new parking revenue, new slip rental revenue, new tax increment from the private development that's happening, and it would be an appropriate use of tourism tax capital dollars.
And it sounds like support from the Canal Park business people.
Oh, definitely. And here's another good fact is even now with the bridge being up this week, we've talked to the folks that own Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. Their sales are down 30% this week just with that bridge being up.
All right. Well, Scott Miller, Mayor Ness, thank you for coming in. Go home and get some rest.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
Duluth, Minnesota, the city by the lake. Population about 84,000. It's known for Lake Superior, and that lake and the quality of life have made it one of the most livable cities in the country, according to Money Magazine. In fact, Duluth ranks 42nd out of 300 ranked cities, up 5 notches from last year.
Well, we really had a good time exploring the waterfront today. It's a real pretty place.
Oh, I think it's a beautiful place. It's fantastic. Have such beautiful weather, and oh, I don't know, everything is so interesting on the side of the hills, and it's just wonderful.
Duluth even ranks above Honolulu, Hawaii. Yes, I said Honolulu, Hawaii, the city known for Waikiki Beach and plenty of sunshine. But take it from a person who's been both places. If you like clean, uncluttered beaches, Duluth's Park Point is the place to be, at least in the summertime. When you talk with people who live in Duluth, you'll find that most are here for basically the same reasons.
Usually, when it's not a real hot summer, I like the cool breeze that comes off that lake.
It's usually cooler in the summer, but this summer it's not happening. But I like it. It's less crowded than the cities, and a nice pond out and back is fun.
Well, I was born and raised here. I met my husband here. Our family, we have a wonderful church, and it's a great place to raise our children.
I moved here 10 years ago, and I'd never go back to New York. The weather's perfect, it's an exciting city, and it's small enough to be fun.
Lisa Molosky, KDLH News.
Exactly what I wanted to hear.
Since its founding back in 2006, Project CARE has been dedicated to providing basic medical care to people without health insurance. The Hibbing-based nonprofit is succeeding, perhaps even beyond the dreams of its founders. Now this month, Project CARE opened a new free clinic in Virginia. This is the 4th Iron Range location where patients can actually walk in for free care in the early evening hours. Joining us now is Carrie Estey-Dix, Executive Director of Project CARE. Rob Tomassoni is a Project CARE board member. And Dr. Bob Rutka is one of more than 30 medical professionals who volunteer their time at the free clinics. Thank you all for being here. And Carrie, it must be gratifying to see your success and yet heart-wrenching to know that there are so many people in need.
It is, Dennis. Actually, last week when we opened the clinic, on my way home, I was talking to one of the other volunteers, and she's on our board, and all I said was, I'm actually speechless, and that usually doesn't happen to me. And it's one of those things, I laid my head down on the pillow at night, and I just think that, you know, we're providing a service for people.
And opening night at the Virginia clinic was busy?
The opening, it was very busy, and most of the opening of our clinics usually are slow. However, it was busy. We helped many people, and that's what we're set out to do.
Mm-hmm. Who primarily are you set up to serve?
We are set up to serve those that fall between the cracks, that are uninsured, they are working, and they just do not qualify for state assistance, or they're not offered insurance through their employer, or if they are offered it, they can't afford it.
Now, Rob, you're on the board of directors, and the board oversees all 4 clinics?
Yes.
And what's the mission of these care clinics?
Well, again, I'm the newest board member, and I guess maybe Carrie could better describe that, but it's to provide quality care for those that don't have insurance.
Young and old, and everybody in between?
Absolutely, we do. And it's those that, we do see some children actually. We see children, family members, their parents may be self-employed. There's just many people that fall between the cracks or that just don't have insurance.
Doctor, you are one of the physicians who made the decision to volunteer for this. What motivated you to do that?
Well, I think it's an opportunity for us to give back to the community. Being part of the community, we see many of these people, and to be frank, it probably costs between $100 and $200 to just walk in to see a physician these days. And if you go to the emergency room, it's probably $1,000 at least. And people don't have that opportunity. I mean, they have to forego groceries or rent or something else if they choose health care.
So, doctor, what kind of treatments are provided then at these?
We try to do some of the basic things. A lot of the people that we see have diabetes or hypertension. There might be some sore or a rash that they would like somebody to look at, and we can do that fairly quickly. I can see people roughly about 8 to 10 times faster in the free clinic as a regular clinic.
Rob, are you surprised at how the community has kind of embraced this idea? Because it's really taken a lot of selling to the community and fundraising, and people have gotten behind it.
Actually, it's been quite easy, I think. In the last week since we opened our clinic, I've been traveling the east end of the range from Mountain Iron over to White Lakes. And as I bring posters around and tell people about it, I mean, I stop in the city and I'll talk to the city hall, I'll talk to the library, I'll stop at the laundromat, we'll go to the assisted living and the nursing home areas, because a lot of the CNAs that work part-time don't have this insurance. And I went into the unemployment office in Virginia the other day, and a lady followed me out, and she told me that her husband was 62 years old and he lost his job and they didn't have insurance, and she wanted to know if they qualified. It's been a very rewarding experience for me, and it's also a surprise to see how many people are truly in need out there.
And you have very limited hours, evening hours, it looks like right now.
We do have evening hours. In our Hibbing clinic, we're open 2 evenings a night or a week, and then in our Grand Rapids clinic, once a week, and 2 times a month in Virginia, and then 2 times a month in Ely. So we're trying to cover all the bases.
And are you finding that that those hours are covering the need? Are you having to turn people away, or what kind of response are you getting?
We do not turn people away. However, what people also need to understand is during the daytime hours, we also help people. We help them with the medication programs. We're also starting, we have in the last couple of years started diabetic education, you know, different programs also in the day. So the staff that I have, you know, I also have staff in, you know, 1 part-time staff in Grand Rapids, a part-time in Hibbing, a part-time here now in Virginia. those staff work extra hard to do medication programs. So we also see some patients that come in during the day.
So doctor, it sounds like medications are being provided then to patients.
Yes, there are a couple of ways that we handle it. We do have a pharmacist on site when providers are present, and we look for the $4 prescriptions. A lot of the larger pharmacies have a list of drugs that you can get for $4. And then we do take some samples. Unfortunately, some of the samples are more expensive medicines, so we try to be very cost-containing in our prescribing.
Yeah.
Now this is for folks who don't have insurance, but is there really any way of knowing if somebody has insurance when they come to your door? Is it really on the honor system, or how do you deal with that so people don't take advantage of the service that you're providing?
Actually, I was just in a meeting today with the CEO from Range Mental Health, because we actually are partnering up with them, and her and I had talked about this. It is on the honor system, and not too many people will come to our clinic if they really don't need it. And by the time we check them out, we actually hear many stories, like you had said earlier, that we go home and we just try to do the best we can to advocate for the patients, and they really do need the help.
So have you had people coming from outside the area trying to get involved in this, or?
One of our good things that we do is that unfortunately some people play us for narcotics. But not at this clinic, because we have a policy that we won't fill narcotics and so forth. We don't want to contribute to some of the problems that people are trying to get over too. But there are people that shop around. But most of the time we have a pretty good feeling about who we're dealing with, and we try to give them the basic needs, and it's not Cadillac care, but it's good care.
Doctor, can you kind of walk us through a patient comes in, appointment isn't necessary apparently. Was it first come, first serve?
It's first come, first serve. They come in, they get some basic demographic information at the front desk. They are roomed by a nurse or a nurse practitioner type of person, like an LPN. They see a provider. After they see the provider, they'll go to the pharmacist, and then they have a kind of a debriefing episode with more people that will help them find programs in the community that might benefit from them. Carrie was mentioning the diabetes program and so forth. So we can provide more education. It kind of takes a village to help a patient out.
Is it easy to find doctors who are interested in participating, or is it a struggle to fill those shifts sometimes?
We actually have, at the Grand Rapids and Hibbing and Ely Clinic, we are set. And what I think happens when we open a new clinic, they want to see what it's about.
There you go.
We are actually we're actually very fortunate that Dr. Rutka came aboard, and
but we also utilize other people too. We have nurse practitioners and physician's assistants that step to the plate, and we're a close-knit community up there, so we all know each other too. But it is hard to find some physicians in Virginia. That's not exclusive of the free clinic though too. Essentia, St. Luke's, Fairview have some of those same challenges.
You have set hours, but if you still have 3-4 patients to see and 9 o'clock comes around, you're not going to close up shop right away?
Absolutely not.
Just won't take additional.
Absolutely.
And how do those other healthcare providers interact with what you're doing? Are they happy to have you there? Are you taking some of the pressure off for them?
Such as like the main. We actually are supported by every hospital in our community, and they give us free lab and x-ray, each of the hospitals. And the way they look at it is we are taking off the pressure. We're keeping the patients out of the urgent care and ER.
Rob, what made you want to get involved in this?
Well, you know, it's funny you asked that, because I had a friend from Ely last year that came down, John Sohegan, and they had just started the Ely clinic up not too long ago, and he came up to me and told me, you know, Virginia doesn't have a clinic. And I looked at him, I said, why are you telling me? I don't know how to run a clinic, you know. And so I thought about it, and I said, well, who can I get involved? And of course, you know, this was late summer, and during the closer to Christmas, there were all these people that got sick from the flu. And a couple of people on Facebook I saw said, where can I go get free medicine? Where can I see a doctor? So I said, you know, doggone it, right after the first of the year, I'm going to start working on this. And of course, everybody procrastinates a little bit, but so the gentleman to my right here, I said, right after the first of the year, I'm going to call Dr. Rutka. And I called him up, and
away it went.
And that's what happened.
Okay,
yes.
thank you very much, all three of you. Appreciate it. Thanks for telling your story.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
It's time now for the week's top business news from the folks at Business North. The federal government has been asked to step in to stop research activity related to potential future mining in northern Wisconsin. Bad River Tribal Chairman Mike Wiggins is lobbying to require Gogebic taconite to prepare an environmental impact statement before taking bulk iron ore samples. Wiggins says the Bad River Band believes the Environmental Protection Agency and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are more likely to protect the Lake Superior watershed. The Wisconsin legislature passed a new law that speeds up the process to obtain mining permits.
Detroit Diesel Remanufacturing announced plans Wednesday to move work performed at 4 separate Hibbing sites into a single structure leased from the Range Regional Airport. The company, which repairs and upgrades electronic engine controls for large trucks, has aggressive growth plans. It plans to double or triple the size of its new home, which currently has 30,000 square feet. Financing will be provided by the IRRB. Once that occurs, the staff of 100 could grow by 30 to 50%.
Well, following years of preparation, the Actives factory in Two Harbors has made its first commercial sales. Using the outer bark of the birch tree, Actives factory's extraction process produces compounds used in eco-friendly and natural consumer products. The products include cosmetics, lotions, and dietary supplements. The effort has been supported by years of research at UMD's Natural Resources Research Institute. NRRI has found that birch extracts provide anti-inflammatory and antioxidant medicinal effects. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Now, if you have a comment about our show, pick up your telephone, dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message, or send an email to almanacnorth@wdsc.org. And for immediate access to news and information about the station, visit the WDSC website, where you're going to find the latest program updates and a lot more. Julie, looks like we're not quite done with summer yet. Nice weekend again.
Not quite done. It doesn't even feel like we've started it. So.
Well, it moves quickly, doesn't it? For Julie and the crew at Almanac North, I'm Dennis Henderson. Have a great weekend. Good night, everybody, and be kind.